Hello there, this is Carrie Rhoades here. Welcome back to the Trinity Stamps YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the Pop Fizz Stencils and the Cheers die set, combining them together and showing you two different ways to use them in two slimline cards. So this is the Pop Fizz stencil set. There are two stencils in the set plus all the masks that you can use to create your cards. These are going to make some fabulous wine or champagne bottles or maybe even bubble bath. Plus there's wine glasses, there's the effect of the cork popping off. There's a cork, there's labels to put on them. The dies are etched so they're easy to line up. This is the Cheers die set, and you can see that the stencil coordinates with it perfectly, along with all the little pieces. You can even make shine marks on the bottle. So it is a really cool set. Here you can see all of the die cut pieces die cut out, and they will layer up together. There's a lid or there's a cork. There are labels. There is even the word Cheers and a shadow layer to put it on. So a lot of fun things you can do by mixing and matching this die set with the Pop Fizz stencil set. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to start out with the stencil. I'm going to use the stencils to create my bottle. When it's all beautiful, then we will die cut it out. So I'm starting with Distress Oxide ink in Tattered Rose, using a makeup style blending brush to add the ink to that, and I don't need to go all the way to the top because I'm going to do something else there. Now I took another part of this stencil, used the etched lines to line it up with what I already stenciled, and use a darker color ink to go over the top to create that label, and that is Worn Lipstick ink. Now I'm using some Nuvo Glacier paste in silver to add the top part of the bottle, which will be like it was covered with foil. So I think that is super cool way to use your paste with these stencils. I let that completely dry, and then I brought in the stencil, or excuse me, the die set, and die cut out my bottle, and look how cool that is. Now you could do this with paper and just die cut these layers out. I used some holographic paper for the lid and the label, and now for this extra small label, I die cut out one piece, but then I'm going to put the stencil on top of that and use some more glacier paste to fill that in. And I was able to use the etched lines in the stencil to line that up very easily. So there is some more glacier paste there, and then you can see what that looks like when we peel it off. So cool. Okay, while that is drying, I'm going to create the background of my card. I want those marks that look like the cork popped off. So I'm going to stencil those on the same color I did my bottle, because that's the champagne color, and that I wanted it to be the same color on the card. So Tattered Rose. And there you can see how it looks like it's exploding. And then I want to do this outline of this glass. Now there are two different style glasses you can use. I felt like this one's more for champagne. And I kind of used the die cut of the glass, which was from holographic paper, to figure out where I wanted to do the stenciling. Because when you die cut this, it has an open space, so I figured I could stencil right onto the background of the card. So I've got like the little top of the wine, like the surface, and then the bubbles, and then the next layer will be the actual the beverage part. You'll see what I mean in a second. So there you can see the bubbles are really subtle, as they should be, and then I can take this die cut glass and put that right over the top. Now you could do this on a second sheet of cardstock and glue it behind, but you know, I didn't have to do that because I had the background of my paper and it worked out really good. All right, so next I'm sticking down my champagne bottle with some foam squares, a lot of them. I like a lot of foam squares. And then I used a different holographic paper to cut out the word Cheers. Look how cool that looks. And I'll even add the exclamation point. You might see there's some tiny bits on my desk as well. Those are like the kind of shine marks or something. I'm going to add those to the bottle. So I die cut those also from holographic paper. There's 3 of those, and the little one die cuts out these 3 little pieces. So you can see it makes kind of a shine there. Love it. All right, now I used my graham cracker alphabet and some white cardstock and die cut out some initials. I thought if you were giving this to someone that you know, you could put their initials on this little label, and the graham cracker alphabet fits perfectly. You can also see I stamped "Sealed with a Kiss" below that, and that's from the Sending Smooches stamp set. It's one of the gnomes stamp sets that came out for a Valentine's release, and so I thought that was really cute to stamp on the bottle as well. So you could give this for New Year's or even an anniversary. Okay, so for this other label, it's going to go right below the portion that I used the paste on, and I probably should have added that before the little shine marks. It got really close, but phew, it worked out. So now all we need to do is add this to our card base. Oh, you can see I added some baubles to this. I'm going to use this on card number 2 as well, so I'll show you them again, but don't they just add to the card? I put them around the word cheers and even inside the wine glass to finish that card up. I think it's really fun to personalize this bottle with some initials. Okay, for card number 2, I'm going to use mostly the dies and accentuate them with the stencils and create a shaker card. So I die cut my shaker opening from a black panel that's 8.5 by 3.5, and then I'm going to do the background. Now I could use the stencil here, but I don't really need to use the stencil because it's going to be covered up with that black panel. So I'm just going to do like an area that is ink blended with the Distress Oxide in Tattered Rose again. I just felt like the Tattered Rose is a really cool color for like pink champagne. So that's what I'm going with, and I love it. So I just laid my bottle there and just see if I needed to add some more, if it was positioned right. And again, the stencil could help with that, but then you have to line it up precisely. You know what I mean? Okay, so I spritzed that with some water to get some variation in color in my champagne, and I loved the look of that. And then I'm just going to make sure that's really dry. So I used my heat tool to go over that, and now it's time to create this shaker. So I put glue all the way around that champagne bottle shape opening and then added a window sheet. And now it's time to add all the foam tape. So I wanted to make sure that my shaker elements remained enclosed in just the area of the bottle. Otherwise, it's a really huge area for all my shaker elements to go free in. And I didn't really want to use a ton of shaker elements, just a little bit to act as bubbles. So that's why I kind of confined the space for my shaker elements. Next, I wanted to add some splatter to my card background, just some black splatter on black for a little added interest. And so I used the mask to mask off the bottle because otherwise I would have got the black splatter onto my window sheet, and I didn't want it there. I just wanted it on that black paper. So that saved me, and then I was able to rinse off the mask when I was done, and it was completely clean. So there's the splatter. It'll dry back with more of a shimmer. Next, I am using the Fortune Teller Embellishment Mix. These are the kind of baubles, I call them, that I was showing you on the first card. I use the same exact mix. They have a little tiny bit of a pink tint to them, so I thought they went really good with this. And I'm adding them inside my card for my shaker element. So you can see why I didn't want to use too many, because they're awesome. Like, I want to save them for all the other things as well. So I'm just putting a variety of sizes there. I feel like I used a fair amount, right? And then I'll stick these two panels together and look at the bubbles inside there. I love it. So cool to shake this up and have the bubbles move around. Okay, so now we just need to add like the label portions. So I have a piece of watercolor cardstock I added here. I just like the texture. I felt like it was a little bit fancy of paper that would be around a champagne bottle, right? And then for the label that goes on top of that, I also am going to use some mirrored paper, but this time gold. I thought the gold went really well with this color, just like the silver did in the holographic paper that I used on the previous cards. So the metallics, they work really well. And so you can see I used it for the bottle top, so it looks like that foil wrapping again. And then the label for the top is done with the watercolor paper. And on top of that, the little circle I did with gold glitter paper. So kind of playing with the different textures of metallic. Then I am using the shadow layer die this time for this card, and that's die cut from vellum, and then the cheers from that same gold mirror cardstock. I love adding a vellum shadow layer. It's so cool. It just has that little extra something, you know, but it's not overpowering in the vellum. So I think it's a really cool addition for these kind of scripty die cuts. Okay, here's my cork. I die cut it out and then I'm going to line it up with the stencil. I have some like paper tape that's holding it in place, and then I am using some Distress ink in Vintage Photo to add color to that, and then I can even just dust up the edges with a little bit of ink, and that just gives this tiny little die cut a lot more interest and detail, and love is in the details, right? Okay, so now I've die cut the background to this other wine glass, and I'm adding my Distress Oxide ink right to that, and then I can put this behind the stencil and stencil on the bubbles. So I'm just using the same color. That's just going to make it a little bit darker, like a shade darker than the top. Going to be very subtle again, but I like having subtle bubbles and then having some darker over the top. So just touch that up, and there is that portion of the wine glass. So now you can see I can glue this behind my die cut wine glass, where on the previous card I did the stenciling right on the background. So a little bit different, just depends on your card, what you're making and what's going to work for, you know, your situation. Okay, so I'm pressing that wine glass in place. I used a paper towel because I had a little too much glue. It's like seeping out, and the paper towel can just pick that up for me. So this fits in there beautifully, just like that. And now we have our finished wine glass. So pretty. Okay, now let's dress this up a little bit. So I'm going to pop up the cork. Of course, it should be popped up because it's popping out of the bottle. And then for the kind of like this, the splatter, or like the champagne is popping out, I'm going to bring back those embellishments and glue them on. And look how where's this pink coming from? I don't know, but they're so cool. Aren't they gorgeous? So I just put those in and around the cork and the bottle, and like the bubbles are flying everywhere. I just love that look. I even added some of the tiny ones to the wine glass again for some added bubbles. So you can see I've got the stenciled bubbles in the background and then bigger bubbles in those embellishments. Okay, I decided to be crazy and stamp Happy New Year on this bottle. I used some VersaFine Onyx black ink, but I'm also stamping on a surface that's not sturdy because there's no backing. It's a window behind it, right? So I didn't quite get enough pressure on the W and the Y, so I found a liner pen and just kind of filled it in, and it's fine, right? It has that kind of vintage print feel. So yeah, there we go. That finishes up the shaker card, which I added to a kind of blush colored cardstock base. And there are the two cards for today. I think that these stencils and these dies are really fun to play with. I didn't know it, but I ended up loving them. I had so much fun creating these. I think they would make great wedding cards, bridal shower cards, and you could make this for any occasion. You know, congratulations for something, and New Year's, of course, is right around the corner, so you could make yourself some New Year's cards if you maybe forgot to send somebody a Christmas card. That would be good too. So I hope you guys have a fabulous holiday season and many blessings in the new year. I'll see you all again very soon. Happy stamping. Bye.